I'm Rod Duff from Insights and Straight Talk. And with that, folks, I am out. Dang it, you guys caught me again. I gotta get that timing down a little bit. I am really starting to warm up to that. I like that. We got a couple other ones coming up. And then people should start seeing, for instance, about a week from now, you should start seeing Sabrina's short and some different things that we're doing and getting a little bit more creative, which is exciting and fun. It's helping us grow a little bit, and that's always a good thing because that's more of a message we can pass across. As you all know, this is a message about empowering and educating the great middle class, because we have to come together, and to do that, it's probably a good idea to make ourselves, more the best we can be, so to speak, as the Army says. We need to be educated. We need to be able to talk and communicate. We need to be able to manage our anxieties and some of those mental health things but all that happens through discussion and conversation. So here at Insights and Straight Talk, we don't do interviews, right? And we don't just have conversations. We have conversations. That's the style, but we get deep down into things, not like a lot of mainstream media. They do talking heads and just talking points. That's always frustrated me and aggravated me, because you want to know what the truth is, no matter what it is, whether it's current events. But anyway, so that's one of the reasons. Another one you guys all know about, that I opened up to Sabrina just a little bit. And so I'm going to bring her on. She is let me go back to something. I told her in the green room that she's the smartest person I've ever interviewed, which is fortunate for me, because I as you guys know, I dig down deep, because I'm the bottom. I'm the safety net of this show. If I can understand something, anybody out there can. And so it's just a real interesting conversation that we're going to have today, because it's personal. It's mental health that is not uncommon, nor is it a stranger to me. And producer Barbie's on. She comes on quite a bit. Well, every time then we meet afterwards, but she comes on. She'd be nodding her head, and at the end of the day, Sabrina has been trained. This is the important thing. Have conversations with people who want to and can help you. She's been on a billion of these podcasts with her message, and it really caught me. One, I hear she's really funny. You guys know I love that. But two, with her mantra, tagline, I don't know the right word, but not good enough. That's a feeling we don't all, but if we do, and I've got a story about that, and it has to do with my nickname JR. And if you're interested, I'll let it out. I'll unpeel that onion of me a little bit. Anyway, there's a core belief that many people struggle with, and that they're not good enough, that they aren't worthy of other people's time. And on here, we're that narrative needs to be shifted, because in order for us to communicate, to socialize, to say hi to your neighbor, that's kind of a thing I always say, and create a vibe that people want to be a part of, and this is a movement, and this is it's not the 60s all over again, because we're not just talking, and we're not doing other things. What we're doing is we're trying to help each other out in education. And I'm the biggest recipient of that. I just absolutely am so curious. I I'm really curious. Things interest me. And so when Sabrina and I started to go back and forth with some information, I got really excited about this. And with that, I am going to let the smart people in the room talk again, and really give us some good information. If Sabrina, if I missed anything on your introduction there, please fill it in, and let's kind of dig into some things. So with that, I present to you Sabrina Trobak.
Hi.
You look familiar.
How are you doing?
I'm doing really, really well. This has been, this show is really growing a lot. And it's literally, 3 weeks ago, I think today's Friday, 3 weeks ago today, I canceled my last contract in my business, although some people are trying to get me back, but to go full time here, because this is not only growing and it's fun. I mean, this is my job full time. I mean, who's got a better job? I like to talk and I like to watch TV, and that's all I do now all day. So I like to learn, and I like to do that. So I'm benefiting the most, but oh, wow. Okay. People jumped on really early. Thanks for being here, guys. Obviously, some people need some help. Can you help us out? Give us the background, start there, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. What? So I was a teacher, a learning assistant teacher mainly, I ended up working in all 3 school divisions, working with
kids.
This
is all in Canada, right?
Sorry. That's right. Yeah. Okay. Pretty much all in BC and Alberta. Gotcha. And, working with kids with learning disabilities, it affects their self-esteem. If you're struggling with reading, with writing, for math, you're not going to be as confident and believe in yourself as much. So one of the things I was often dealing with was kids who had lack of confidence, had higher anxiety, and just learning different adaptations that I could use in the classroom to help students who are struggling with these kind of things. Towards the end of my teaching career, I started as a school counselor, and I went into a workshop on suicide. But the workshop was a bit of a different perspective. It was looking at suicide through the eyes of that core belief, feeling not good enough.
So building out of that to kind of explore it, understand it, and then the healing comes out from that message, that point, that stance.
Right. So looking at thoughts of suicide more as a symptom of that core belief that is deeper. And at the end of that,
well put.
Yes.
Wow. And well really put.
Is the kind of that's why we call it the core belief, because it really is at the kind of the bottom of everything. At the end of that 3-day workshop, I reached out to Tony Martins, who was the presenter, and said, "This is what I need to do. You spoke to me in a way that just feels right." And so we went back and forth for about a year, and he agreed to teach me his model of therapy. So I quit teaching and started my own private practice I'm in Fort St. John right now in northern British Columbia. I'm about mile 60 of the Alaska Highway.
My grandfather worked on that, back in the day. He was in construction. I haven't heard that highway name a lot. So anyway, I don't want to divert you, but the Alaskan Highway, I know that.
There you go. Yes, that gives you a bit of a reference of where I am. Exactly. And so I started my own private practice, which really focuses at looking at all of these kind of mental health issues, coming back to that core belief, not good enough. I started my own private practice in 2010, and within about 6 months, I had a waiting list. My waiting list now is about a year long. And I hate having to tell people, sorry, there's nothing I can do. So that's when I started working on the book. So I wrote the book, Not Good Enough, Understanding
Reaching out more people.
Exactly. Yep. To try to reach out, provide a resource for people who can't access counseling or aren't maybe ready to access counseling, but want to start gaining a better understanding of things. So that's kind of got me to where I am right now.
Wow. What a, let's call it, what a journey. I mean, and that's what the world needs. I would say the United States, but you're in Canada, so
The world.
well, the world, man. I mean, seriously, the world. But it's the building of these concepts and this education and this knowledge, because the elites have a lot of access. I use that term just because you know what it means. And that whereas the great middle class doesn't have near as much access, and we need to be able to build and empower ourselves through these things. I haven't seen this very, but like 20 questions came on. I'm going to be behind on these, but in this one, what are some practical steps for starting to shift a core belief? I mean, it's a core belief, right? So, you've been telling yourself, and your brain's wired, and I assume you're going to, in that you got to redo some stuff. How does that work?
So I think the very first stage is the awareness. For a lot of people, for so many of my clients, when I start talking about that core belief, they'll say, oh yeah, that makes total sense, but I never thought about it like that before. So if I'm not aware, I can't do anything about it. So the very first step is really figuring out what that core belief is. Not good enough is a big part of it. We often see kind of not good enough, not important, or not valued as ones that often come up for us. So we want to become more aware of how significant those are. How often do we see things through that core belief? Once I become aware of how significant it is, then I can do something about it. Problem is, our core belief, honestly, even starts before we are born. If I look at parents whose core beliefs are not good enough, there's a very good chance that that child is also going to have that core belief. They're kind of born into it, depending on what their parents' core beliefs are.
Is it a chemical thing that I mean, that's I've never heard that. That's fascinating. And I mean, it makes sense, because if you look at history, the daughter it becomes the mom, and the son, there's that that pathway, right?
Often we see very generational, right? So if I've, mom whose core belief is not good enough, a dad whose core belief is not good enough, how can they teach their kid that they are good enough? It doesn't work, right? So, when we look at things like anxiety, depression, mental health, there often is a predisposition that can be passed down generationally, but it's often triggered by the environment they live in. So if as a parent, I feel not good enough, I'm going to be reacting and responding in ways that reinforce and support that core belief. My child is watching and learning. So they're also learning that core belief.
Key, right? Recognize my child is watching and learning. You have a responsibility to a bigger you, or a bigger thing. You're responsible for parenting, not just raising, right? Parenting a kid, and you've got to be the adult in the room, right?
And again, if that core belief has been something that has been there since I was born and I've grown up through it's instinctual. We don't even really think a lot about it. It's kind of like walking or speaking English. We just do it. We don't even think a lot about it. So part of what we have to do is become aware of that core belief, and then how is it impacting us? So our brain likes balance. And so if my core belief is not good enough, I am going to be drawn to people, experiences, my own perceptions that are going to reinforce and support that core belief. So we'll often see people, jump from one relationship to another, but the same thing is being repeated. That's because I am drawn to people who reinforce and support that core belief. So until I become aware and challenge that core belief, the chances that I'm going to see long-term change is not very high. So we need to look past the symptom at a much deeper level of what is that core belief and how does it impact it? And of course, that core belief is a huge part of anxiety as well.
Yeah, because you're living with your own, right or wrong, you're living with your own image of yourself. Your image comes from experiences, and your experiences come from your thought process. Like you just said, you get attracted to or drawn to nobody can say that's not true, because it's 100% evidentiary. Oh, my Damn, my dog just came. Daisy, get out of here. Sorry. I've got 130 pound Boomer, and my little girl is 68-pound Daisy. So every once in a while they take advantage of this because they're not allowed in here at this studio. So, anyway, so how long does it typically take? And this has a variation depending on what you put into it, what your mental, your makeup is, all that stuff. But it's a great question. I mean, until you start seeing real change, the first step, like you said, is acknowledging it. And then how long is there a number? Is it a science or is it an art as far as the time?
It's kind of an artful science, I guess, is what I would say.
Oh,
yeah, they're
clever. That was a good one. I like that. Okay. We didn't even practice that, guys. That was good. Okay, go ahead.
It's not an on-off switch. It's something that is progressive and builds on each other over time. So really, you can start to challenge and change your core belief as soon as you become aware. If I start going, oh, there's that core belief again, I'm starting to challenge it and change it. As I continue to do that,
because you're recognizing it, right? Because you recognize. Okay,
exactly. And so one of the things that core belief is it has a huge impact on self-doubt. If I believe I'm not good enough, I'm not going to trust in myself that I can handle a lot of situations. I'm going to lack confidence, right? So if I'm not ready to see my core belief, I'm not going to see it. And so often I'll talk with a client and I'll say, something to them, and it just goes over their head. And then 2-3 months later, we talk about it again and they're like, oh, I get what you're meaning now when you said that. I remember you said it a few months ago, but I didn't understand what it meant. And then a few months later, we talk about it again and they're saying, oh, now I see it in an even deeper way. So as that core belief changes, we continue to challenge ourselves, understand why we're doing what we're doing. That core belief continues to shift. And honestly, I would say it kind of needs to be a lifelong project where you're continuing to work on yourself to become more and more confident in that core belief, for sure.
Let me ask you something. It's different, but it's the same, it sounds like. I come from a sales, my business it's a machinery business, and I'm a salesperson, right? That's my business development. So that has you learning certain things about the human psyche so you can be developed, and you know what I'm talking about. Yep. And in that, one of the things is you tell somebody something once, you have to touch the customer by email, and this is not exact same thing, but it is. The human being blows it off. Wait, I remember. Wait, yeah, and then starts to retain, and then does the thing you're just talking about right there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think I saw that in me, like looking at selling my books online. Someone had told me that they need to see your ad about 7 times before they even really go and look at it, right? So
exactly.
The more we hear it, the more comfortable we get, the more used to it. Where with anxiety, with that core belief not good enough, a lot of people think anxiety is kind of about the trigger, right? So I have anxiety of, let's say public speaking. Well, lots of people have anxiety of public speaking, but lots of people don't. If it was about public speaking, then everyone would have anxiety of public speaking.
Good point.
Yeah, anxiety is my belief in my ability to handle it. If I don't believe I can handle it, I'm going to have more anxiety. If I believe I can handle it, I'm going to have less anxiety. So often if my core belief is not good enough, I'm not going to believe in myself. I'm going to have more anxiety because I'm not going to believe in myself as much that I can handle something. So what we have to do is start becoming aware of that. What's that voice that I keep telling to myself over and over again? And then really look at it. Anxiety isn't about my actual skill and ability. It's about my belief in myself. So for example, as a salesperson, if I think, I got this big sale coming up, I'm feeling anxious, I'm not sure how I'm going to handle it, I'm going to have higher anxiety. But often after the event happens, we go, oh, that wasn't so bad. Why was I stressed out and worried about it? It's not about your ability. It's about your belief in yourself. So often whenever there's something new that we haven't done before, we're going to have more anxiety because we're not going to feel as confident in handling it. So that's why people often need to see things 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. Then they start to become more comfortable with it. They start understanding it more. They're going to be more open to it. Whereas originally they're going to be a bit more defensive because it's new. They're not going to feel as confident in it.
Yeah, no, that makes 100%. Obviously, makes I'm preaching to the choir, or vice versa here. That's an obvious thing, and I thought about part of a way when you were talking that last point. A thought came on about the just lost my thought. I had it halfway through the conversation, and now you know what? I'll come back to it. I'm going to save myself from too much embarrassment here. And I'm going to say, what's the first step someone can take to challenge their belief of not being enough? And that's obviously recognition. What I was going to say is I have started to believe and understand as I become more experienced on the other side of this, that journey, experiencing the journey. Especially, and this may sound, I hope it doesn't sound sexist, but especially men, that's a sign of weakness. We can't, I can't show that. I can't show that stuff and don't want to go out and ask for help. But what I'm starting, there are people that could probably help themselves, but a professional that you don't go learn baseball from somebody who's never played before. You go learn from, the best, so you can really understand it and help them and be there. I've even had people that couple sessions in, I'm like, I'm counseling her or him, and that, so it's not the profession, it's the knowledge, and it's the ability to pass it on. And that is why I become a wholehearted supporter as a man, as an old man, in professional health. And that's why I was so excited. Another reason, you're there and you're spreading that out, and you've spent your whole life mastering your message, let's say.
Right. And I think that's a really important part. We can only learn within our knowledge base. So if I'm trying to figure it out on my own, that's great, but I can only do that within what my knowledge is. My job as a counselor is to challenge that, make that knowledge base wider. So now I can pick from a whole bunch of other information that before I didn't even know existed. Right. So it is important, if you're not comfortable going to a counselor or whatever it might be, that's okay. But you still need to figure out, how do I broaden my knowledge and learn more? And so it's really important to do that, to make sure we're doing that. And just your point about men, I would agree significantly. When I first started my practice,
I was a little nervous. Today's world, you never know. I didn't want to make this thing dive off the deep end there. No. And to add what you're saying, go on, but if you don't have the counselor, at least have a friend who knows and understands. My start on that journey of recovery, I refer to producer Barbie a lot, right, in this show. She became the tool, and sometimes it pissed me off because she knew more about me than I did. But anytime she'd see me, she knew what I was going through. I didn't know I was exuding it, but that was where I started. And it's so critical to have that support, good support, not somebody who's going to, okay, well, yeah. Oh man, I'm sorry. That's not support. I mean, it's kind, but it's not support. Right.
Right. For sure. Like I was saying, when I first started in my practice in 2010, I was lucky if I was 20 to 30% men. And the men who would come into counseling, they would not sit in my waiting room. They wouldn't even park out front of my building. They needed to park out, a block and a half away, throw their hoodies on. I'd text them, okay, you could come in. They'd run in through the back door, zip into my office. But usually within about 3 sessions, they were like, give me your card. I got to tell all my buddies about this. So once they were able to kind of shake that social pressure that's there on, men are supposed to be tough and suck it up. And someone actually validated and said, yeah, you're, you know what, you're human. You have emotion like everyone else. You've had to deal with these outside pressures that are ridiculous. Then they were much more open to it. Now in 2025, my client list, I'm almost 50-50 men and women. And so I see men calling regularly, I want to get on your waiting list or whatever it may be. Whereas before, it was often men coming begrudgingly because their wife was forcing them. So there has been a real shift with men where men are saying, no, I want to figure this out. I have a right to have a happy, healthy life and not just be in survival mode all the time. I want to figure it out. And I think part of that whole idea of feeling emotions with weakness is an excuse, because if we think of it as weak, then we don't have to do it. Right. But the truth of the matter is feeling your emotions, sorting through your emotions.
You got us figured out here.
Right. You bet. Right. Society says, oh, it's weak. Everybody goes, okay, well, we don't have to do that. But why are we doing that? Just because it's scary to do it. It actually takes way more confidence to sort through and figure out your mental health and your anxiety, your depression, your core belief, and figure out how you want to live your best life. That takes a lot of courage to do that. It's not an easy thing to do.
It's not, but it's the best thing in the world that you could ever do. Self-exploratory, being honest with yourself. And I alluded to a early on when we were chatting there, I alluded to my own story and producer Barbie, we've been together like 20 years. I mean, it wasn't like, oh, hey, can I help you? She knew me. And that core belief is guided by what like what you said. You have to recognize it, and then from there, the more you do it, right? And I'm sure you're going to back me up on, more you do it, the better person you become. It's exponential. Like you start getting comfortable with yourself. The story is abbreviated. I've lived my whole life until recently, and a lot of things are the reason why I changed. But I used to, I've been a salesperson, so I was always behind a mask using the name JR, which Barbie finally got me to admit that to myself. And all of a sudden that came on, that mask came off, and I became authentic. Big word, right?
Right.
So one thing before you go here, go into that. How can we differentiate between a healthy level of self-criticism? Because you gotta push yourself, versus a harmful belief in not good enough. That's a pretty reason. Thank you, Olivia. I think it is. What do you think?
I would say chances are, if it's criticism and you're beating yourself up for it, stop doing it. But self-reflection is important, right?
How do you do that?
So good question. So even after I have sessions with clients or, anything that kind of happens for me, I always kind of look at it and I pick it apart. So I look at, what did I do well? What did I maybe not do well? And what could I change and make it different for next time? So I'm looking at it globally, not just looking at the negative aspect of it. I'm also looking at, what did I do well that I want to continue to do next time? What were some of the challenges, and how could I change those to do it a bit different? As soon as there's that kind of criticism, again, depending on the word, what your definition of criticism is, but criticism often suggests I'm kind of beating myself up. If you're beating yourself up, you're reinforcing that core belief, not good enough, not important, not valued. So getting better at looking at, what could I do differently, challenging it, taking responsibility, that's a big piece. So if we're avoiding responsibility, it looks like a few different things. Avoiding responsibility is blaming, justifying, excusing, avoiding, playing the victim, denying, anger. Those are things that we're doing to avoid responsibility. Negative self-talk fits in there. So rather than doing those things, stop and figure out, okay, what do I need to take ownership for? If I screwed up, I screwed up. Just own it, figure it out, and challenge myself to move forward.
Beautiful. I mean, be authentic.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Are you there? You can't hear me. Oh, this sucks. What do I do here? What's missing?
So I'm not sure where he's gone, but I see a question here. It says, can you share an example of how someone transformed their core belief of not good enough into a more empowering one? I think the vast majority of my clients, and myself included, of course, if I'm practicing this model of therapy, I also have to be very good at challenging and changing my core belief as well. But little tiny steps, becoming more aware of what my anxiety looks like. We often talk about, our anxiety when it's really, really high, say a 10 out of 10, but I don't necessarily know what my anxiety looks like at a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out of 10. So that means I'm not doing anything about my anxiety until it's really, really, really high. So part of what I want to do is learn more about what are those symptoms. I start chewing my lip or my cheek when I'm about a 4 or 5 out of 10. My eye starts twitching when I'm a 6 or a 7. Becoming more aware of those smaller symptoms makes me feel more empowered in challenging my anxiety. The more I can challenge it, the more empowered I feel, the more I'm building and developing that core belief, good enough, important, and valued.
I hope, can you hear me now?
I still can't hear you.
I can't believe this. All right, go ahead. Go on the,
you're gonna go out?
Go on the,
and then come back. No, you're going to go out.
Yeah.
You want me to go out?
No. Read, keep up the monologue. Read the comments. Ah, damn it. I'm terrible at
this. 3 words. First word is.
Sounds like, damn it. Why don't I have nothing here that's wrong. So,
just looking to see if
continue on. Okay, there's that. Okay, so I'm yeah, I see you there. I don't know why your device. Oh, that's me. Sorry. And I don't know how I can't get her on. So it says you will need to connect your microphone cam before you can. Here, I wonder if I can. Can I copy this? It says you need to what did it say, guys? Yeah, it's starting to lose it now, aren't we, guys? I'm so sorry for this. It says you need to reconnect your cam and microphone before the system will let you back in. I wonder how long this has been going on. It's a horrible show, guys. I'm really sorry. Let me try this. Let's see what she says to this. I still can't hear you. I get it. Look at the, wow, you can't hear me. That's so, I'm a talker. I use my hands a lot, but I'm a talker. So it's hard for me to communicate. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look for her text again. But I am going to go back to the comments. So I'll shuffle back and forth so I can do as much saving of this dang show as I can. Oh man, that's hurt me. Let me move that. All right. So you guys are staying with me. I appreciate it. I still haven't got a response from you guys, but all right. So next question. Can you share an example of how someone transformed their core beliefs of not good enough into more empowering one? Let me see. Share an example. I could use myself, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to save that for her unless she doesn't come back. And I promise you, Matt, I'll come back to that if she doesn't. What's next? Can someone with a strong not good enough belief still achieve success, or does it always hinder progress? This I know. And from example, Allie, my daughter-in-law's name is that. Cool name. Anyway, from experience, you can. We talked about. Oh, damn. Oh, wait. Ah! Hold on. Can you hear me?
Whew.
I have been freestyling out here for a little bit. I think I did okay, but
I was too, but no one saw me.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know what? If we could have traded, it'd be better for them to hear you than to hear me. So I only got down a couple questions down the way there. Okay. Everything all good now?
I think so. I hope
all
so.
Right,
I won't
super.
touch anything. I'm going to sit on my hands.
Yeah, we're going to keep an eye on you now. Yeah, we're watching. We're watching. Good. All right, so I let's see. This one this one you were talking about, and honestly, I don't remember. I got so distracted. I don't know if we finished this point, but the next one, I think I was pretty cool and able to example how. No, I chickened out of this one. I left this one for you because I said I could talk about my own personal experience, but I'm not going to do that right now. And then this one is, can someone with strong, not good enough beliefs still achieve success? And that one I kind of did my own personal version of of your intelligence onto that that comment. So let's go back and kind of redial in.
Okay. Again, I think as soon as we're talking about self-criticism, it often suggests kind of beating yourself up. So rather than criticism, self-reflection. So what did you do well? What could you do differently? I think those are really good things. Every time you challenge yourself on that, you're also reinforcing and supporting that core belief, good enough, important, and valued. Whenever you're creating that core belief, you're also challenging that core belief, not good enough, not important, not valued.
That's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. Way to wrap that up. And because it's so important, because you need to, what did you say? People don't have to do it. You know, they make excuses. So it's easier for guys to say, you know,
right.
It shows weakness, right? So that balance there is really, really important. Okay, I chickened out of this one because I wasn't quite ready to reveal, even though I've had many shows on it. So what is I'm sure you have way better examples too. I'm sure you have a lot of them. So you've been doing this how long now? I mean, between teaching and
I was teaching for about 21 years, and then I've been doing.
What date? What day?
Did I start teaching?
You've been. Sorry, go.
I started teaching in 1991.
Okay.
And I've been doing this.
So we're talking 20, 30 years of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Easily. Yeah. We're looking at 35, getting close to 40 now, for sure. Yeah.
Out of that time, I bet you got some good stories here of someone who transformed their core belief and made them a more empowering belief. As a matter of fact, that's what your life is built on. That's what your practice is built on. And we'll get into your book too, but go ahead.
So the model of therapy that I practice, that's really what we're doing is we're looking at how has your core belief developed over the years? And then what do we do to challenge and change that core belief so you feel more like you are good enough? To change a core belief takes time. So most of my clients are with me a year and a half, 2 years, as they're sorting through and challenging that core belief. You know, it takes your entire life to get your core belief to where it is. It takes time for that to change. And so part of that end goal is a sense of empowerment. Remember that core belief, not good enough. I'm going to lack confidence, not believe in myself as much. So what's the opposite of that? Feeling empowered. If I feel empowered, I feel like I can handle it. So it doesn't really matter what comes up out here. I'm going to be confident in myself that I'm going to be able to handle it. May not be graceful. I might not even do it well, but I know I'll be okay on the other side of it. So that sense of empowerment is kind of the end goal. Now, the opposite of empowerment is control. If I don't trust in myself that I can handle things, I need to try to control all these things out here. Problem with that is we can't control anyone else but ourselves. So we set ourselves up trying to control all these things. Then they fall down and we go, see, I'm not good enough. And we beat ourselves up over it. So the more we challenge that core belief, the more empowered we're going to feel. And again, it's very small, subtle steps. The more you're kind of feeling like, okay, I can handle that. Yeah, it's going to be scary, but I can still handle it. The more we're feeling that sense of empowerment. When I look at my clients that are at that end goal, they aren't just surviving life. They're enjoying life. They're taking risks. They're stepping outside of their comfort zone. They're challenging themselves. There's a much stronger sense of connection in their relationships, in their sense of family dynamic with them and their kids. Part of what that core belief does too is, and part of how it's developed is connected back to emotions. Often as we go through things, we all experience different kinds of trauma, different levels of trauma, and different experiences just in general that create emotion. But what we're taught is just push that down, pretend it's not there, lock it up. Someone talks about emotion, we want to instantly try to make them feel better. We want to minimize it. We want to solve the problem for them. All that emotion, it doesn't go away. It just sits there and builds and builds and builds and builds, which reinforces that core belief, not good enough. If I'm full up to here with emotion, something happens today, I'm going to feel like I can't handle it because I got too much other things going on. So part of what happens when we get to that higher level of empowerment is I'm better at being able to recognize and feel my emotions. I'm not running from them all the time.
The point about that is, in my belief, and it becomes momentum. It gains momentum. You start out slow and you don't know, and you're fighting, you're pushing through and all that. But like you said, over that time, they're not just trying to survive, stay alive, anymore. But it starts off, and then it starts to really accelerate the more, you're building on, because you're redoing it now, right? And so that becomes more momentum, because you feel the joy of that. And your body, your brain keeps going after that, right?
Right. Our brain is built with all these pathways, right? And the more I practice the behavior, the thicker that pathway becomes, the more comfortable it is for me to manage it. So we want to use this. I often kind of look at it like stepping stones. So we want to take a step up where we're challenging ourselves, stepping out of our comfort zone, thinking about something in a very different way. But then we need to practice that for a good period of time and build that pathway so it becomes more and more comfortable. Then we take the next step, and then we have to practice that for a while. So we need to challenge ourselves, but we also need to practice those steps in between. Otherwise, we just kind of fall back and tumble back to where we were before.
Absolutely. That's what, and it's literally that simple. I shouldn't say that. It's literally not that complicated. It isn't simple, but it's pretty straightforward, because what you're describing is all biologically within us, because we're built that way, and it's just a matter of doing it, right? Like Allie says, that's one of my daughter-in-law's name. I love that name. Can someone with strong, not good enough beliefs still achieve success, or does it always hinder? Obviously, well, maybe it doesn't even always hinder. What do you say?
I think it's going to hinder you to some degree, for sure. You can still be successful, but often, if I having to prove I'm good enough by being successful, then you may be very successful, but you're not really going to be able to just appreciate it and sit in it as much. There's always going to be something more. You're going to be focusing more on the negative. So sure, there's lots of people whose core beliefs are not good enough that are successful, but when you really look at, so how much are you really content in your life? That's often kind of struggling a little bit more. But again, we need balance. So if my core belief is not good enough and I'm really successful, that's kind of out of balance. So we'll often sabotage ourselves in other ways. Maybe it's not work, but maybe it's relationships or friendships or whatever it might be. So we need to try to create that balance. So it can be there, but there's often that core belief is usually peeking through in some way, shape, or form. And as it's simple, I always say to my clients, it's simple, but not easy. So the concept is simple. The application is not easy.
I think some of the best things in life or the world are simple, but not easy. And so that makes a lot of sense. I love this next question from Anita here. She talks about having a supportive circle, what did she say? Environment for someone working. And this is kind of obvious. And we reflected back. I don't mean anything about that, Anita. But we reflected back a little bit ago, to have that is critically important. But it's interesting, the environment. What if your supportive circle, which should always include your family, I would think, maybe not always something, but this is obvious and probably one of the more important things besides getting professional help, because you need to be able to still have that mirror and build better relationships with your environment. It pays off for them too.
But I think the challenge with this is it's not easy, because our core belief drives us. So if my core belief is not good enough, guess who I'm hanging out with? Other people whose core is not good enough. And so now I decide I want to try to challenge myself and work out of that, but all of my social settings are more not good enough. They're not going to be able to support me and may actually even sabotage, right? You've have you heard of like the crab in the bucket syndrome, right? So you got a bunch of crabs. If one crab tries to start to climb its way out, the other ones will grab onto it and pull it back in. So if we're all in chaos, we all feel not good enough. It's very normalized. It all feels, feels good. We all can kind of feed off of each other. If one person starts to step out of that, it shines a light on those other people as well. And so they often pull themselves back in. It's probably one of the biggest downfalls of this model of therapy. It changes your relationships. Right? If you're in chaos and your friends are all in chaos, chaos. You don't know anything different. You start moving out of that, understanding anxiety, understanding your anger, feeling your emotions, challenging that core belief. Well, now you're not meeting their needs and they aren't meeting your needs. So it changes a lot of those relationships. So it can be hard, to really find a supportive group. You almost have to kind of look outside of your normal and look at how do I actually try to connect with people that are maybe at a bit healthier place. I often hear people say, there's no healthy people out there. Well, yeah, they are. You're just not hanging out with them because you're not healthy.
They're not in your circle.
That's right. As you get healthier, you will start to see that different dynamics in different people for sure.
Yeah. And change is always hard. Even though this is, you said it's difficult. Your friends, everybody in helter skelter. And as you get out of that, it's actually a challenge to feel better. Because all you know is that thing that's been built in your mind. So you've got these friends that you've all attracted to each one to each other. Right. What does self-compassion? This is a curious question. When I read it earlier, I was curious about this. What does self-compassion play? Okay. So instead of criticizing, self-compassion is that it's self-awareness and what can I work on? Okay, unless I'm wrong. Play in overcoming the belief of not good enough, and how can we cultivate that compassion?
So I think they kind of work on a bit of a cycle. So generally, if my core belief is not good enough, I'm not going to have a lot of self-compassion. I'm going to be pretty good at beating myself up. So as that core belief changes, you start being more compassionate towards yourself. You start being more kind to yourself.
What comes first?
Well, it's the chicken or the egg, right? Like, right. It's hard to say. So, but if I shift my core belief, then I'm going to feel a little bit more compassionate towards myself, have a bit more understanding of why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I can challenge myself on it, which then builds more core belief, which then makes me more willing to be more compassionate to myself.
Momentum.
Exactly. So it's one off over the other. Often, if I'm really making a conscious effort to challenge my core belief, that's going to come first, and then the self-compassion comes with it. But sometimes I just kind of stumble on things and I think, okay, I'm just going to start going for walks more and taking more time for myself. So now my core belief becomes a bit stronger. So it really kind of depends which one. They work in unison very significantly.
Wow. That's beautiful. That is absolutely okay. I skipped one there, but the insights are great. Sabrina, how does a trauma? Oh, great question. Yeah. Well, let me ask. Before we go into that, I actually was wanted to say something about your last comments, in that, you're getting that momentum up, and your core belief is always standing in your way, and you aren't going to be able to have self-compassion. What's first, the chicken or the egg? But is there what is first? I mean, you've got to have, you talk about, you've got to have the environment, and you gain momentum, and it builds on itself. It's not a light switch. It's a dedication. It's a change of lifestyle that we're working. You don't go on a diet. You change your your eating habits, and then that becomes a habit, right? That's kind of the journey, isn't it?
Right. We look at there's a process that you go through as you're changing behavior.
I love that word, process. Love her accent, guys. I love it. Go ahead. So I've held back a couple of times. There was a couple of times I wanted to jump in, but you were just getting started there, so I could nudge you on that one. Love it. Go.
Okay.
Woo! Okay, that's going to go into one of the short. You know how we talk about the social media stuff. We said, did you get my social media post earlier today? I threw it on Match. Well, I just wanted to show you what's coming on and what the process is. Anyway, that's going to go in one of those shorts. That right there. I got you, man. I got you.
Yeah.
All right. So all right, back to business.
So we talk about 4 pillars. The very first pillar is the awareness. So let's say, for example, eating healthy. First step is, I'm really not eating very healthy. Right? But if I'm not aware, I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. So that first step is awareness. I see it. I see it now. I didn't see it before, but now I can see it's there. Not doing anything about it, but I'm starting to become aware of it. Then we get to the second pillar, which is understanding. I think I should start eating healthier. So I'm thinking about it now. Never really thought about it before. Still not doing it, but I'm starting to think about it. What would it look like? What could I do differently if I was eating a bit healthier? So I'm thinking about it. I've got more awareness, but I'm still not doing it. Then there's the third pillar, which is the resolve stage. I believe I can eat healthier. I'm starting to change my eating habits. I'm having more fruit and vegetables. I'm making sure I get a good enough amount of protein.
Oh no. Damn Canada. Your screen's frozen if you can hear me. I don't know if you can. Oh, there you are. There you are.
Okay, so the I believe stage is the messy stage. This is where I'm practicing. I'm trying to figure it out. I know what I want. I want to eat healthy. I'm doing it, but I'm not doing it very effectively yet. I'm missing, there's times where I end up eating junk food. And as I'm eating junk food, I'm thinking, you're doing it again. Then I say, so what? I don't care. I'm going to keep doing it. And I still eat junk food. But in the moment, I'm starting to become aware I shouldn't do it. Then I get to the point where I go to the cupboard and thinking, I'm going to have, and I don't. I put it away. So this takes a lot of practice and changing. We're creating new pathways. We're trying to dissipate those old pathways. This is a hard stage where we're practicing. Then we get to the fourth pillar, which is healing. I am eating healthy. This stage doesn't take as much work and effort. I'm doing it. It's more of a pattern, more of a routine. But that process in itself can take, well, honestly, for some people, they don't even get to the awareness stage. If I'm actively working on changing the behavior, this takes months. This isn't something that just happens in a short period of time. It takes months to really create it to that place where I am doing it and it's happening fairly consistently without a ton of work and effort.
That's beautiful, man. That is the simple but challenging steps of getting those 4 pillars. And that, what a great mental example of that. How does trauma weave into this? Because can trauma ignite? I think I'm trying too hard. Ignite a inner feeling of I'm not good enough. I can think of one thing that might be there, and they're both traumatic things, right?
Right. Trauma plays a very significant role in that core belief, but in a few different ways. So we know that when we experience trauma, it affects the chemicals in our brains. It changes the way we think. That's going to create more insecurity, more self-doubt. It reinforces that core belief, not good enough. So the experience itself does definitely play a role in that core belief. But more importantly is how that belief is handled. Right?
So the result, it's that old saying, it doesn't matter what happened to you as much as how you react and how you deal with it, right? That's what you're saying.
Well, and even more how much support I had around it. So let's say, for example, as
Okay.
at school, I got beat up at school. I come home, I tell my parents I got beat up at school. My parents talked, oh, how did you feel about that? What was that like for you? They help me sort through and figure it out. What do you want to do? How do you want to handle this? They're asking my opinion rather than just jumping in and doing it for me. We go to the school, it's addressed, it's dealt with. The school works and supports and makes sure that those kind of things aren't happening again. That was trauma. I was beat up at school, but it was handled in a way that's helping me feel more confident. Whereas if I'm beat up at school and I go home and I think I can't tell my mom and dad, they got too much stuff going on already. They're already dealing with, my brother who's always freaking out and has their own stuff. They can't handle my extra stuff. And so I just push it down and I don't say anything. Even if I never get beat up again, I now have to carry that and carry it and carry it. Over time, that emotion gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. People often talk about experiences, and I think a common practice is it's in the past. There's nothing you can do about it. It's over with. There's truth to that. It is in the past. It is over with. We can't change it. But that's not what you carry with you. What you carry with you is the emotional impact of that. The longer you hold that emotion in, the more traumatic it often is. So
grieving is a big process, is an important process, right?
For sure.
Letting that out.
We have to be able to talk about that emotion and let the emotion out, for sure. Yeah. But the other piece that plays in trauma is a lot of people end up experiencing trauma to some degree by their parents. So my parents yelled, my parents fought a lot. There was violence, there was abuse, there was alcoholism, whatever it is. Well, so what happens now is, as a child, when I experience these things, I feel vulnerable. And so growing up, I think I am never going to feel vulnerable again. I put walls up. If I couldn't trust my own parents to feel safe, why would I trust anyone else?
100%.
And so now I live on my own. I do my own thing, but I need to keep everybody at a distance because of that fear of getting hurt, because the people who are supposed to keep me safe couldn't keep me safe. I'm not trusting anyone else. So it has trauma plays a massive impact on that core belief, not good enough, for sure. And how it's handled.
Yeah. And great example, because your parents, what is more, they gave you life. So you have to be able to trust that very first step, that first compadre, that first person in your life, that is raising you, and they have to parent, not just raise. I think we talked about that earlier, but it happens a lot too. Unfortunately, it's not like society, you named it. There's alcohol, yelling, sexual abuse, physical abuse, and it's not every single household, and you can tell the difference between them, just by how the way they act. I want to kind of wrap up on this and catch anything that any questions you had that caught your eye that I might not have gotten to, or a final thought. And and by the way, as we wrap up, can you put your contact in? We didn't get into your book, did we?
No.
All right. Why don't we get into your book and then kind of leave that? You've made so many impactful statements and comments and observations and reality in life that I'm going to challenge you to make another big impactful, I've got time. So I just want to, the questions are, I think, covered. Yeah. I think the questions are all covered, but I hate to let this go, because it's so refreshing to hear. Oh, I want to ask one more thing. Sorry. What is, I know what the word holistic means to me. And when you say a holistic approach in your profile on that, before you do your final thing, never mind. Can you, I've been meaning to ask this all for the last week.
Right.
What is holistic to you?
So holistic.
And your thing.
Yeah. Holistic in my model of therapy is we are looking at the person as a whole. We're looking at mind, how your brain works, how fast your brain is thinking. We're looking at your body. If you're, I was working when I was in the schools as a school counselor, I was working with a boy who was struggling with depression. We had him go and get blood work done. It turned out it was his thyroid. So counseling was not going to help him. There was something physiologically going on that was creating that. If I have a lot of chronic pain, it's going to affect my mental health. It's going to have a significant impact. So we look at mind, body, emotions. Again, we're often okay to feel kind of angry and happy, but most of those other emotions, vulnerability, fear, rejection, abandon, lonely, we don't like to feel those. So what are the emotions you're okay to feel, the ones you don't want to feel, and what coping strategies do you use to avoid and suppress those emotions? And then we look at spirit, which is what are your values and your beliefs around everything, around the education system, the political system, around family, around work ethic? What are all your values and beliefs? So we're looking at a person as a whole. So we often say that if there's a fracture in one of those areas, there's generally a fracture in all of those areas. So we need to look at a person as a whole. And then, of course, the holistic is also looking at your whole life experiences. So how is that core belief developed throughout your life? What are the experiences? We're looking at the person as a whole rather than just looking at one piece of it.
Yeah, that's so important because it's not always done that way.
No.
And I'm assuming we talked very early on about your, there's only 24 hours in a day and there's only so many people you can bring your message out to, obviously. I'm assuming that your book is kind of, I have a special place in my heart for book because I haven't published it yet. I'm going through the query. I've actually written 3 books too, just sit there because it helps me in therapy, and then this next one I'm querying, but unfortunately, not unfortunately, it's nonfiction, so I had to build a platform, and this freaking platform took off, and I can't even get time to go back to the book. But how does your book compare to our discussion today? Well, actually, you have a couple of, don't you have more than one, or no? Okay.
Oh, one.
Okay. Yeah,
Just
no
one.
kidding.
Yeah.
That's tough, isn't it? That takes a lot.
I never, ever had any inclination to ever write a book ever in my entire life. So that was a big learning curve for me. It took me about 7 years to kind of figure out what I want it to look like. Problem is, I know that people who have higher anxiety struggle with reading. They have a hard time focusing, a hard time being I know that as a learning assistant teacher. So how do I write a book about anxiety for people who don't like to read because they have anxiety? It becomes challenging. So the book is broken down into very small sections. So you can literally read a third of a page and go, okay, I'm done for today. I'm going to stop. The book is broken down into a lot of with a lot of different subtopics. It also has a lot of chapters and diagrams and visuals. And so you're really only reading a very small piece of it at a time. There's very few pages in the book that are full text throughout. It's broken down into small chunks. So it's more comfortable for you to be able to read and sort through it. So basically you read a little bit of information and then you apply that information to your own experiences in a chart or an activity. Now, again, I want people to kind of use this as a resource. So if you email me and show me the picture of the book that you bought, I will send you the handouts for free so you can pass it around to everyone in your family or friends or whatever. You've got your own activities, but you can pass it on to someone else and then they can follow through as well and get their own activities as well.
I jumped on a little early there. And
I lost your sound again.
Are you serious? You're kidding me, right? You're not joking, are you?
I can't hear you.
Oh my goodness. That means you're going to, hold on, let me do this. How do I do this? Put your contact. Can you read my lips? Put your, here, look at the, hold on. I'm going to text you right here. I can't hear her either now. Damn it. Put in your contact information. This has been a crazy show, hasn't it, everybody? Damn. I misspelled. Well,
can you hear me now?
Oh my goodness. I hear you.
Okay, you can hear me. I still can't hear you. No.
Do
you want me to just go through my social media information where I can be reached?
Yes. And did you read what I wrote down in the comments section? Oh, I forgot. You can't look right here.
Okay. My website is type it
in the comments. Yeah. Good. Guys, that was me. Dogs.
So I don't know if I'm typing it in the right place or not. My website is trobakholistic.org. On my website is the links for buying the book. There's also a page on there that's blogs. So again, just short 2 to 4 minute reads on various areas around mental health. I also have a page there that is my podcast. I'm looking, but I don't see anything different. I don't see that you added anything.
Yeah, I did right here. Comments.
Nothing is coming up.
Yeah, it is. You're just not looking there. Hold on. Where's the private chat? Look at comments. Look at comments here. Look at
name and headline. Is that what I should be doing? I'll try it and see what it does.
Did you see that? Look at comments.
I don't know if that's what you want me to do or not. So I just changed my headline to my website.
You're getting louder. Is that good? Can I hear you? Look at what?
Look at comments. Oh, great insight, Sabrina. That's all I see is that one.
No. Oh, really? Hold on. Hold on.
Okay, got it. Can you hear me? Put your contact information. That one. Okay.
Is that good enough? Oh, I like your nails.
It says I have to connect my YouTube account.
I like your nails. All right.
I don't know if that's going to work or not, or if that's going to kick us out or not.
Yeah, I don't think that's no. Is the typing good?
Yeah, it's when I go to join. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
When I go to join the chat, it says I have to connect to my YouTube channel.
No. Private.
That's the only way I can add a comment, though.
Yeah, I know. Private chat.
Yeah, trobakholistic.org. There, you got it.
You got it?
That's my website. Yep.
Okay. All right. And that's good. Everything good. We're gonna. This has been one of the craziest shows. This has been one of the craziest shows. I am learning sign language. Are you good?
I have no idea.
Let's end this.
Time to cut. Show's over.
Yes.
Say goodbye. Okay.
I hear you, man. You know what? Your message is going out there. I hear you. Perfect. Say goodbye. Can you wave to everybody?
Okay, thanks.
All right. That was a lot of fun. It got a little crazy at times. Can you hear me now by any chance, Sabrina? Raise your hand if you can hear me. No, you can't hear me still. All right. I'm not going to go on too long on this. We got her contact information in there. Fantastic message. I mean, we spend a lot of time on mental health, as you guys know here, as a message. And in that mental health, we cover different angles at this process. So that was awesome. Sabrina, fantastic show. Even better than I had imagined. I'm Rod Duff. This is Insights and Straight Talk, and I am out.
Hundreds of trillions of dollars coursing through our economic veins, there exists a pathway where no U.S. citizen needs endure poverty. Every child should be shielded from involuntary hunger and thirst. By eradicating greed and corruption, we pave the way forward. This chapter delves into the rationale behind our governmental expenditure and prompts a critical inquiry into how our leaders allocate our resources.